What is up, everybody? Kick06 back with another test video with a Ryzen 7 8700G. Today we have some Warzone. This is not multiplayer, this is not Resurgence, this is just the normal Warzone map. But before we hop into it, I want you to know that the links to every single piece of hardware in this test rig, as well as the link to my Discord, is in the description below. And also the last 6.5 minutes of this video is kind of the informational side, where I dig into the settings, all the defaults I changed, and all the software I downloaded for this APU to perform the way it is. As for the game, we are going to be going through basic, minimum, balance, and ultra settings, and we're going to be doing it in FSR 1 and FSR 3 just to see what the differences are. As you can see from the screen, top left is going to be where your FPS and RAM and all that information is. The top right is what settings we're on and what FSR version we are going to be in. Right now we are starting in the minimum settings. For minimum, I'm kind of going to go through a little cheat sheet. We started at minimum FSR 1, and in minimum FSR 1 we saw about 115 average FPS, with 90 FPS being the 1% lows. Right now we swapped over to FSR 3. And overall through minimum we saw about 110 to 110 FPS kind of on average, and then that 1% lows stayed around that 90 FPS. One thing I will say is when we do swap over, because if you look right now our 1% lows say it's at 6. Oh, it just updated. So when we change graphical preset, it resets it, and it takes about 20-25 seconds for it to catch back up until the 1% lows are accurate. So what you're seeing now at 89, 88, that is accurate for the minimum settings on FSR 3. So don't be alarmed when you see when I change and it drops down to 4 or 5 FPS for 1% low. It's just not accurate. It's not true. Anyways, moving on. Then we are going over to basic settings. For basic settings, we actually went up to about 120 FPS, and then the average 1% lows was about 90. And that's for FSR 1. For FSR 3, it was around 110 FPS on average, and the 1% dropped down to 85, which isn't a big deal. It's pretty simple. Now, one thing I will say is pay attention to the textures and all the rendering through FSR 1 and 3. There are times where FSR 1 is better on specific presets. There's times where FSR 3 is better, and you're really going to notice it once we get into the Ultra preset. Man, it struggles. The FPS is still good, but it does struggle quite a bit. Anyways, hopping over to balanced FSR 1, we averaged about 115 FPS still, but that 1% low went down to 80. When we swapped over to FSR 3, we averaged about 105 FPS, and the 1% lows dropped to about 70. Again, that is balanced settings, FSR 3. 105 FPS, 70 for a 1% low. Ultra's where it got pretty dicey, and you'll find out if you skip over to it. Ultra, the FPS in FSR 1 was still about 100, 105, somewhere in that frame. And the 1% lows were around 80, which sounds good, but the 1% lows looked good, but the actual gameplay, it kind of looked like somebody made it out of clay, made it out of Play-Doh. Like, stuff wouldn't render in great. It did not look good. I would not recommend Ultra settings. Ultra did not look good in FSR 1 or 3. But FSR 3 on Ultra settings is where we really saw the dip. 90 FPS, but then the 1% lows are down to 52. I'll let you be the judge of it, but I would not load up in Ultra. If I was to have to game on this, and this was my rig, I would probably just put it on. I'd probably just put it on basic, because basic looked fine, it played fine, but balanced worked fine as well. Overall, it played very well. It played a lot better than it did a year ago when it first came out. So that is pretty cool. But that's a little cheat sheet into all the settings. That is going to be it for me. The only thing I got left to say is if you have a different game in mind that you want to see played, feel free to put it down in the comments below, and I will get a video made. If it is free, cheap, or I already own it, I have no problem testing it. I plan on keeping this rig for a while. But that's going to be it for me. Again, my name is Kick06. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Your squad mate secured intel on the next gas spread. Decrypt it at the uplink station marked on your tac map while there's still time. Upload secure. Future gas spread coordinates are marked on your tac map. Hostiles have established a SAM turret. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Your squad's in the safe zone.
Target down.
On your feet. We're counting on you.
Your squad mate won the fight. They're redeploying now.
Seal alive.
Enemy dropping into the AO.
Eyes on enemy.
Gas is inbound. Marking new safe zone. Fire sale active. Buy station prices have been reduced. Your squad made it to the safe zone. Gas is closing in. Enemy soldier incoming. Fire sale's over. Adjusting prices.
Taking effective fire.
Hostile.
closing in. Relocating safe zone. They've got a SAM turret online. You've been called back in. Stand by for redeployment. Squad mate has been cleared for redeployment.
Moving here.
Your squad's in the safe zone. You've got gas moving in. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Enemy counter UAV inbound.
I thought you were down, like bottom floor. I tried to get down to you and I just landed on a dude.
Enemy dropping into the AO. Gas is inbound, marking new safe zone. Gulag's closed until further notice. Got an extra valuable opportunity here. Don't miss your shot. You've got a loadout drop inbound. Hostiles have established a SAM turret. Enemy UAV overhead. All squad mates are in the safe zone. Gas is moving. Enemy UAV is online. Enemy soldier incoming. Enemy UAV overhead. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. You've got gas inbound. Safe zone relocated. Loadout drop headed your way. Hostile UAV in the area. Head to the safe zone. Gas is inbound.
Disregard that.
Gas is closing in. Get to the new safe zone. Down to 10. Win this thing.
I'm hit. Thermal grenade thrown.
Less than 10 were still standing. The enemy took that one, but we'll get them back.
What is up, guys? If you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the videos. I hope you found them helpful. Over the past couple days, I have tested about 20 different games, and this is kind of the part where I just want to go over with you guys my settings and maybe go over an issue or two that I had. First off, this right here is called FPS Monitor. I got it off of Steam. I believe it was a couple bucks, but this is where I got all the information that was in, I think, all but one of the videos. And I think CS Counter-Strike 2, I think, did not take this. I don't remember. One of them didn't like it and it wouldn't work. But FPS Monitor on Steam, I think it was a couple bucks, but that is exactly what I used. As for this is the Adrenaline. This is the AMD Adrenaline app that you will need if you are going to get the CPU or any of the G series from Ryzen. So HyperRX is well known for it being the best for FPS. It has the Super Res that was on, Fluid Motion Frames 2 that was on, Anti-Lag and Boost. All of these were on. You can go to quality, and I think it's pretty comparable, but based on my research, HyperRX is definitely the one that you want to go to for performance, and you can get all these. You can have your own overlay. You can set it up here. I just didn't do that because I like the way the other one was formatted a little bit better. Here's the system right now. I have 32 gig of RAM installed. There's the Ryzen 7 8700G as advertised. So right now it says there's only 24 gig of RAM, and I will tell you why right now. I went into the BIOS and changed the UMA frame buffer size to 8 gig, which means that I took 8 gig of the physical RAM and turned it into VRAM for the APU, so it would have more power. With 32 gig, that gave us plenty of room since most of the games today did not even get over 20 gig usage of RAM. So that gave us some extra FPS. So that's why I did it. I allocated 8 gig of RAM, and that's why right there. I had a question in my chat before that was asking me what version I was using of Windows. So there it is, Windows 11 Home. There's the version in the OS build. So the next thing that I wanted to show you was AMD Ryzen Master. This is where I go for basically the overclocking, really. So I set it on game mode, turned on Precision Boost Overdrive. On top of that, I came down to SOC voltage. So the GPU SOC voltage was I set it to 1.275, and I will tell you exactly why. Once I got into the more demanding games like Halo and Warzone and Ark, the computer started just resetting on me, and it would just reset and go right back to the login screen. So I did a little bit of research on Reddit and YouTube, and I found one guy that said he had those same exact issues, and he said it was a voltage problem. So he raised it up to 1.275 volts, and it worked flawlessly, and it was stable, and he never had an issue again. I think, if I remember right, it was on like 1.15 or 1.175, something like that. So he didn't raise it a crazy amount, but over the past 7, I believe, the past 7 games that I tested, 0 issues and no issues, no criticals in the event viewer either. A couple other things in the BIOS, like I said, I allocated that VRAM. I made sure that the resize bar was enabled. I set the F clock to 2500 and the U clock was at 3000 because I used 6000 megahertz RAM. And XMP was on for this, by the way, in case you were curious. Let's see what else I have for you guys before we go out. So that FPS monitor app that I use, it showed the 1% and 0.1% lows. And I just want you to know that the first 20 to 30 seconds after I changed to a different graphical setting, it kind of resets that. So the first 20 to 30 seconds are not trustworthy. So if I switch over and you see, oh, it's only 5 FPS for a 1% low for 25 seconds. That's awful. It was not that bad, which is why it went from 5. In most cases, it went from that 5 FPS or 2 FPS all the way up to 30 or 40. It just had to reset, and it basically has to play catch up. One other thing I wanted you guys to understand, all of this testing was done on a 27-inch Asus TUF curved 1080p 165 hertz monitor. The frames were basically the frames were uncapped if it was possible, and if possible, every single one of these games was done in full screen exclusive. And the last thing I wanted you guys to know is that all of the recording and all of the FPS monitoring software was done on the computer while playing the game. So I did go back and I played 5 to 10 of the games over again just to see the difference in the FPS without having to run OBS and FPS monitor. And it came down to about a 5 to 13 FPS differential when the OBS and FPS monitor were turned off. When the game was the only thing running, there was an increase of about 5 to 13 FPS on average. And I know that's kind of a very precise number, and that's just exactly what it was. So that is going to be it for me. If you have any other questions or if you want to see any other games, please feel free. Put them in the comments below and I will get to them. I plan on keeping this computer for a while. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Don't be safe. Don't do anything stupid. And I will catch you guys on the next video.